China's President Xi Jinping and Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau have exchanged tense words on the sidelines of that summit.
China is retaliating a week after Ottawa slapped tariffs on Chinese-made electric vehicles, steel and aluminum. Beijing is now launching an anti-dumping investigation into Canadian canola imports.
Canadian canola farmers are bracing for the possible loss of one of their best customers, China.
Tensions between China and Canada have reached a boiling point, and things are escalating faster than anyone expected, with new developments shaking the foundations of their trade and diplomatic relationships. It seems like this situation is spiraling out of control. What led to this explosive moment, and what does it mean for the future of these two global powers? Today, we'll dive deep into the latest moves by China that hit Canada hard, sparking concerns that this conflict could lead to even bigger global consequences. Before we get into all the details, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to stay updated with all the breaking news. Now, let's get into how things unraveled. The relationship between China and Canada has been rocky for years, but recent actions have taken the tension to another level. This all started back in 2018, when Canada arrested Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou at the request of the United States. In retaliation, China detained two Canadians, Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor, in what was widely seen as a move to pressure Canada into releasing Meng. The situation dragged on for more than 1,000 days, severely damaging diplomatic relations between the two countries. But this isn't just about arrests and diplomatic tit-for-tat. The real battle between Canada and China is being fought in the world of trade. And that's where things are getting really messy. Canada has recently implemented new tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles, a move that has not gone down well in Beijing. China immediately pushed back, filing complaints with the World Trade Organization and launching investigations into Canadian exports, particularly canola, a product that's crucial to Canada's agricultural sector. In 2022, Canada exported $3.5 billion worth of canola, making it a vital part of the economy, especially in provinces like Alberta and Saskatchewan. China's targeting of this sector is no coincidence. It's a strategic move designed to hit Canada where it hurts. The impact on Canadian farmers has been immediate. They're worried that their livelihoods could be destroyed if China decides to fully block canola imports. Farmers have already been struggling with the restrictions China has placed on Canadian beef and other animal products for over 2 years. The Canadian Cattlemen's Association has voiced frustration, saying that these barriers are preventing the industry from reaching its full potential. Alberta and British Columbia, in particular, are feeling the pressure as they rely heavily on agriculture to support their local economies. Businesses beyond agriculture are also feeling the strain. The Canadian Chamber of Commerce recently reported a 25% drop in confidence among companies operating in China. Major Canadian corporations like Bombardier and Shopify are starting to look at other markets as they try to reduce their dependence on China. These companies understand that they can no longer afford to be too tied to a country whose trade policies seem increasingly unpredictable. The risks are just too high, and they don't want to find themselves caught in the crossfire of a geopolitical battle they can't control. But here's where things get even more complicated. While Canada is moving to distance itself from China in certain areas, it's still highly dependent on the Chinese market for energy exports. In 2022, Canada exported over $8 billion worth of energy products to China, making it one of the top markets for Canadian oil and gas. Companies like Suncor and Cenovus are still doing big business in China, and recent deals show that economic cooperation in this sector is far from over. Suncor, for example, recently signed a multi-billion-dollar agreement to supply liquefied natural gas to China, proving that despite the growing tensions, some areas of trade are still thriving. However, that's not enough to balance out the broader damage being done. Canada knows it can't rely on China forever, and that's why the government is actively seeking out new trade partnerships. Ottawa is working on deals with countries like India and Japan, hoping to reduce its reliance on the Chinese market. The Indo-Pacific strategy is a key part of this effort. Canada sees China as a growing threat, not just economically, but also militarily. China's increasing presence in the South China Sea has made many countries nervous, and Canada is no exception. By diversifying its trade relationships, Canada hopes to insulate itself from the unpredictability of the Chinese government. But while trade is a major focus, the tensions between Canada and China are about more than just money. Human rights issues have been a constant point of conflict between the two nations. Canada has been outspoken about China's treatment of the Uyghur Muslim minority, even going so far as to label it genocide. This declaration has done nothing to ease tensions and has likely contributed to China's aggressive stance in trade negotiations. In 2021, Canada became one of the first countries to make this official accusation, a move that infuriated Beijing. Chinese officials have consistently denied any wrongdoing, but the reports from international organizations tell a very different story. Despite the tension, the dialogue between Canada and China hasn't completely broken down. Canada's ambassador to China, Jennifer May, has emphasized the need to keep communication open, even when it feels like progress is impossible. In July 2023, Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister, Melanie Joly, met with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi for a 5-hour discussion. They covered a wide range of topics, including human rights and trade, but no major breakthroughs were made. It's clear that both sides are digging in their heels, unwilling to back down, but also hesitant to completely sever ties. What's especially troubling for Canadian businesses is the uncertainty. The tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles are just the tip of the iceberg. China's response could escalate at any moment, and Canadian companies are being advised to prepare for the worst. The Canadian Chamber of Commerce has told businesses to stay flexible and develop contingency plans in case the situation deteriorates even further. Diversification is the name of the game, but it's not easy to pivot away from a market as large and influential as China. In the political arena, Canada is ramping up investigations into Chinese interference. There are growing concerns about espionage, and allegations of Chinese meddling in Canadian elections have sparked a debate about how much influence China really has. Some members of Canada's House of Commons are calling for a complete review of foreign investment, particularly in critical sectors like technology and infrastructure. This could lead to stricter regulations on Chinese investments, further complicating the already fraught relationship between the two nations. Meanwhile, China isn't standing still. Beijing has been tightening its grip on critical industries, especially when it comes to technology. Recently, China imposed restrictions on the export of key materials needed for semiconductor manufacturing, a move that has rattled countries around the world, including Canada. Semiconductors are essential for everything from smartphones to military equipment, and China's decision to limit the supply of these materials has set off alarm bells. For Canada, which has been trying to strengthen its own tech industry, this is a significant blow, but despite the rising tension, there's still room for cooperation. At least, for now, Canada and China continue to work together on issues like climate change and energy. These areas of collaboration are vital, especially as the world faces mounting environmental challenges. But even these partnerships are fragile. As the geopolitical landscape shifts, both countries know that any future cooperation could be jeopardized if the conflict escalates. So what happens next? That's the big question. The situation between China and Canada is unstable, and it's clear that neither side is willing to back down. Trade disputes, human rights concerns, and political tensions are all contributing to a relationship that seems to be headed for even greater conflict. Canadian businesses are bracing for more tariffs, more restrictions, and more uncertainty. The government is scrambling to find new trade partners, but it knows that the road ahead won't be easy. Canada is caught in a delicate balancing act. On one hand, it needs to protect its economic interests and stand up for democratic values. On the other hand, it can't afford to completely cut off ties with one of the world's most powerful nations. The stakes are high, and the next few months could be critical in determining the future of Canada-China relations. The growing tensions have already made life difficult for many Canadian businesses, and this uncertainty will only increase if both sides refuse to budge. As the trade war heats up, the global market is watching closely. Canada is a relatively small player compared to China's economic juggernaut. But that doesn't mean the stakes aren't just as high for both sides. What do you think? Will Canada and China find a way to resolve their differences? Or is this conflict just getting started? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and make sure to hit the notification bell so you don't miss any updates on this unfolding situation.